An event handler is a piece of code that is triggered by something happening. In the last lesson, you worked with the page load event handler, which runs whenever a page loads. In this lesson, you'll add more event handlers to the page. First, open the C# test sample file from your sample files folder. And open default.aspx in Design View. You're now going to add a button control from the standard category of the toolbox. Place it just after the label. Set the ID property of the new button to Button Change Text. You're now going to add a click event handler to the button. First, select the button so that Button Change Text appears in the Properties window. Then, click the Events button in the Properties window, which is just below the drop-down list. You will see a list of all of the possible events for the button control. To add a click event handler to the button, double-click in the empty box next to Click. You are automatically taken to the code behind file of default.aspx, and you'll see that some code has been automatically added. This is the event handler for the button's click event. When the button is clicked, any code between the curly brackets will be run. Add the following line of code to the new event handler. Label output.text equals text changed. View the page in your browser and click the button. As you can see, the text in the label has been changed. This is because the click event comes after the page load event. Here you have two events, both trying to set the text property of the label control, but the click event wins. This is because the events are always processed in a certain order. When you click the button, the page reloads, and the page load event handler sets the label's text to Hello World. Then, at a later point in time, the click event occurs and sets the label control's text property to text changed. On a real website, you'd probably try to avoid this and make sure that only one piece of code affects the label at a time. Close your web browser now. Next, you're going to add a calendar control to the page from the standard category of the toolbox. Set the calendar's ID property to Calendar Select. Note that your Properties window is still displaying the events. To view the properties, you will have to switch back to Properties by clicking the Properties icon. You're now going to add an event handler to the calendar. In exactly the same way as you did for the button, select the calendar and switch to Events by clicking the Events button. Although the vast majority of ASP.NET events can be accessed through Design View in this way, you might be wondering where you can click to set page events like page load. Unfortunately, it's not possible to access those events through the designer, so you have to type them in manually if you want to use them. Some of the important missing events are page init, which happens before page load, page pre-render, which happens after page load, just before the page's controls are converted into HTML code, and page unload, which is the last event in the page lifecycle and happens after the page has been sent to the user. You won't be using any of these in this course, but it is good to be aware of their existence. As you can see, the calendar control has a different set of events to the button control. You'll learn more about the events of different controls in Session 4. For now, double-click in the empty box next to Selection Changed in the Properties window. The Selection Changed event happens when the user selects a date from the calendar. Add the following code to the event handler that has been automatically generated. Label output.text equals calendar select dot selected date dot toString. This code will set the text property of your label to the date that was selected in the calendar. You'll learn more about toString in Lesson 5.9. View the page in your browser now. Click a date in the calendar, and as you can see, the event handler code ran and the label was filled in with the date that was selected. Close your web browser and close Visual Studio. You've now completed Lesson 3.2. Add event handlers to controls.